Yeah, maybe I didn't realize before, but yeah, my coach was telling me that I could play well here, but you know, I wasn't believing too much, and I think also the last 2 years I play against Kvitova first round, so it was tough, to believe it. But yeah, I felt great also in Eastbourne. I was, hitting well the ball on this surface, moving well. So I was repeating to myself, okay, it's nice to play on grass. You can play you can play well. But yeah, I didn't expect to do semifinals here at all. Yeah.
Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's Wimbledon Day 9 catch-up.
Masterful Medvedev gets revenge on Sinner in 5.
Awesome Alcaraz takes care of Paul in 4.
And Paolini makes history to set up a semi-final showdown with Vekic.
Chris, today is the 9th of July and we are here to catch up on Day 9 from Wimbledon at Tennis Weekly HQ. It's the start of the quarterfinals and we have had some blockbuster matchups today across the men's and women's singles, whilst I'm afraid to say the rain has continued to pour. Jannik Sinner, the world number 1, is out after Daniil Medvedev secured a 5-set win and gained revenge on his Australian Open defeat. Carlos Alcaraz is also through in a high-quality encounter against Tommy Paul in 4 sets. And on the women's side, Jasmine Paolini continued on with a straight sets win over Emma Navarro, following up on her fantastic French Open final run, whilst Donna Vekic reached her first ever Grand Slam semi-final. Chris, it's been another fantastic day of action, and actually for once I am a little bit thankful for the rain because it has pushed the mixed doubles from that awful Thursday slot to the weekend.
That is a silver lining, Joel. I will give you that. I think for the people who were here in the rain today, they may not have loved that quite as much.
I know.
But it is nice because it was always my favourite match of the tournament. Was after the men's singles final. You had a lovely, well, normally on a nice sunny Sunday. Yeah. The sun is setting.
It's where
on Wimbledon.
It should be.
It's
That's
lovely.
The home of the mixed doubles.
Thursday's too soon, isn't it?
Thursday is too soon, and it's been another wet day
so
today.
So wet and
However,
raining now, Joel. I have to say
it is raining
we
now.
We might have a rain delay in the podcast.
We have gone back to our Court 18 recording
our original
bench. Our original spot. Yeah, we're looking over. We've got all those kind of dome bubbles up on all of the courts. It looks quite futuristic.
It does. It's quite strange. You almost feel like you could pop under and have a hit. But I'm pretty sure that's not what you should be doing, and it's probably
we want to try and sneak in, but it's probably going to get.
I'm not sure our accreditation gets us through that.
Yeah,
we haven't got those initials.
We haven't got the rights, do we? Yeah, exactly.
I'll ask the question.
We'll ask the question. But yeah, lots of action to look forward to from today. And Chris, we've got to start with the men's action. Jannik Sinner, the world number 1, versus Daniil Medvedev. Medvedev coming through in 5 sets, 6-7, 6-4, 7-6, 2-6, 6-3 in the quarterfinal. I mean, this was a roller coaster of a match, and the more this match went on, it was quite clear that something was a bit off with Jannik Sinner.
I wasn't on the court, but from what I saw of the match, it did look like it was a bit of a yo-yo in terms of the form, in terms of a tug-of-war. Maybe no one necessarily wanted that first set, it almost seemed like, in terms of how that was going. But it did feel strange that some of the scoreline we saw for Jannik Sinner, there were rumours that he was not very well. What did you make from being courtside?
I mean, he just looked paler than usual, actually.
He's quite pale already because of the La Roche-Posay deal he has.
And yeah, it didn't look like he was 100%. He spoke in press about the fact that he woke up today not feeling particularly great. It wasn't an injury. This was illness. And he took an assessment, not a timeout. He took a medical assessment during the match, and it's actually quite a big talking point because he was off the court for 11 minutes.
11 minutes.
And this was not for a medical timeout. This was just for an assessment. I think he spoke about feeling dizzy, getting his blood pressure checked.
And why was that off the court?
Who knows?
That's quite a strange one, because surely you could I've seen people be tested on court for dizziness before.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure why they went off. And I actually would say, although the umpire was pretty spot on throughout the whole match, he didn't actually tell everyone what was going on in this moment. And we sort of had this as I say, this sort of 10-minute lull that I think could have been explained perhaps a little bit more clearly.
And what did Medvedev make of this break? Could you tell? Was he hitting balls, hitting serves?
Well, I think his position on it might have been different if he had lost the match. I mean, he ended up ultimately winning the set, but it was not a decent moment for him because the assessment happened and Daniil Medvedev was serving straight after. He got broken. Sinner then held. And we went to a tie-break, and I thought, Jannik Sinner's got the momentum now. This really should have been Daniil Medvedev's, but Sinner's going to take the set. That didn't happen.
Yes.
But regardless, it felt a little bit like,
it's
not
a strange
sure
time,
if that
isn't
should have
it?
happened.
Because I do think, and this is no judgment on Jannik Sinner's integrity, I think he is a player that holds the utmost integrity to the way that he plays. But normally and traditionally, you would take a medical timeout before your own serve.
Yeah.
And that is something.
Is that like an unwritten rule? I still haven't really got to the bottom of it.
I think it is
it
unwritten.
in the spirit of tennis? Is that one of these things?
I do think that it might not even be on the page anymore. I think it rubbed it out because now people seem to go whenever. They take toilet breaks at the end of sets that are very long. They're trying to cut back on a few of those things. But, 11 minutes is quite a long time to be assessed for. I do understand the assessment has to happen first, but if you are feeling dizzy before going on the court, surely you'd be able to have a bit more of an idea yourself as to what was going on because you'd have had your team of doctors also would have consulted you before the match started. In terms of how this affected the result, I think you've seen this before with Tomljanovic and Ostapenko when Ostapenko's taken medical timeouts and then Tomljanovic said, I hope you get better sort of thing, when obviously she felt like Ostapenko was fully fit. I've never played a 5-set match when I have feeling dizzy on the court, so it clearly affected him at different times, he said, and actually some of the sets he lost, he said he felt better for. So, if he was fully fit, would he have won the match?
Do you know what? I don't think so because Daniil Medvedev was playing very well. Arguably, he could have got that done in straight sets. I mean, he was very candid in the press about the opening set, being like, "I probably should have won that in that tie break." It was almost like to me to you in terms of who wanted this more because it didn't feel like anyone.
Is that a Chuckle Brothers reference?
It was a little bit of a Chuckle Brothers reference, yeah. But Jannik Sinner, the world number one, he is out. I mean, just talk to me about his 5-set record and the fact that we're still coming back to this point of view that his physicality, his levels of physicality, it is just not on par with the likes of Medvedev, with the likes of Carlos Alcaraz, with the likes of Novak Djokovic. And if there's one thing that it feels is holding him back in terms of his game, it's this.
It does feel like there has always been a question mark, and especially at the end of last season with the US Open, there was that question mark with his form heading into that Zverev match that he faced, also in terms of the match at the French Open. So there is this question mark that will always be there. I think ultimately the bigger question mark I have is around the results. So since he has become number one, obviously he won Australian Open to become the world number one, which is obviously a fantastic achievement, and then a semi-final and a quarter-final. So he's had some of his best results at some of the slams. It's his first semi-final at the French. That's a great result. A quarter-final at Wimbledon. He did make the semi-finals last year. Obviously, we shouldn't be worried about Jannik Sinner yet.
It was only his 4th loss, I believe, of the season. But to me, it feels like, he's the world number one at the moment. Yeah, he's the world number one for me at the moment in best of 3. I feel like
on the tour,
I can see that on the tour, but best of 5, I feel like it's still quite open.
It is, and especially with Alcaraz winning Wimbledon last year, picking up the French Open, and now going through to semi-finals, there is a big chance for him to cement his position at the top of the rankings. And the Sinner era that people said was being dawned might be shorter than we thought.
It might be. I mean, I will go back to the Patrick Mouratoglou interview I had yesterday, and he spoke about the fact that he thinks Carlos Alcaraz will be the year-end number one.
Well, that's a spoiler. I actually probably agree with that, having said earlier in the season he wouldn't make top 10 end of season with his injury. So I've said a lot of things, Joel, haven't I?
But talking about Daniil Medvedev, he played a fantastic match and he played a fantastic 5th set, and that is something that he's become a lot more accustomed to recently, and we're going to be hearing from Daniil Medvedev about his 5-set record and now it has changed over his career now. Daniil, I had a look at your 5-set record after the match. At the start of your career, you lost your first 6 5-set matches. You've now won the last 5 of 6. Why do you think there's been such a big change around with your 5-set record?
For me, I always said a lot of things in my life come with experience. So every time I do something for the first time, I'm super nervous. I can do it, but I'm super nervous. Like I don't know what to wait from it. And so it's the same with the Grand Slams. I think first like 4 or 5 Grand Slams, I was almost every time losing first round, except here against Wawrinka. Masters 1000, I took a long time to win my first round in Masters 1000. It's the same about many things in my life. So I think it's the same. Every time I would play 5 sets, I would already work hard physically with my team, so I was ready. But a lot of times I would have the break and lose it. Now I'm okay with 5 sets. Like I know what I have to do, how to play them, and in a way, I don't think I'm better in 5 sets than 4, but I try to win them, and I'm happy that I managed to win a lot of them.
What I do like about what he just said is the fact that he's better over 5 than he is 4. I mean, that's a very interesting thing to unpack, Joel, because I mean, he feels more confident going into a 5th set, I imagine, than he does a 4th, because I think maybe he always knows that he can come through in the 5th set, but you don't want to have to rely on a 5th set to get it done every time, do you?
No, and you definitely don't want to rely on a 5th set when you're going to be facing someone like Carlos Alcaraz.
The battle of the 5-setters.
Yes, and his 5-set record. And that is a match we are going to be looking forward to in the semi-finals, and that's because Carlos Alcaraz came through Tommy Paul in 4 sets. Now, Chris, you were at this match. Carlos Alcaraz won 5-7, 6-4, 6-2, 6-2. What impressed you about Carlos Alcaraz's game today against Tommy Paul?
I think the way that he grew into the match and got better and better. I think Tommy Paul started out at an exceptionally high level.
Yeah, you spoke about that first set being one of the highest quality sets of the tournament.
I think it is the highest quality set of the tournament that I've seen.
Why?
Because of the rallies were extended, the winner count was high, the shot making was wild, and they were really hitting the ball very, very quickly. I think maybe the humid conditions allowed for it to be and under the roof, maybe that makes it a bit quicker, but I mean, they were really, really hitting the ball very hard, very fast, great movement, and it was a real contest. It was 1 hour and 13 minutes, I believe, that first set was. It was really long and lots of challenging points, no kind of unforced errors on those big points. So I thought it was a brilliant contest, but as soon as that happened, that first set, I thought, can he do this?
Can he sustain it?
It's so hard for Tommy Paul. I don't think you can, and I think that's where Alcaraz just got better and better. And then by the end, I mean, the level from Alcaraz was just on another planet. I really think that final set, if he can play like that in the rest of the tournament, it's his to lose. I really do.
Okay. Well,
there were gasps, Joel.
Okay, there were gasps. Well,
not from me, but I think from others.
Well,
maybe.
Alcaraz spoke about the fact that he felt that that first set in particular played like clay court tennis.
Is that how muddy it is?
Yeah, I was confused. Hang on.
Yeah.
If there's one condition, it's an indoor. It's played like an indoor
clay. It's like Stuttgart. No, that's very confusing to me. That statement. And Tommy Paul was asked about that. We were in his press. And
he didn't agree with it, did he?
I know he was kind of confused by that. Yeah, because he's not great on clay, is he, Tommy Paul?
No.
So.
And Tommy Paul spoke about what's so hard with Carlos Alcaraz is that once he gets momentum, once he has that incredible rally, that incredible shot that gives him that energy and that inspiration, it's very hard.
He runs away with it.
He runs away with it. It's very hard to stem the tide. And Paul was basically saying, look, you got to stop those miracle shots happening for him to pick up a head of steam in order to, get the better of Alcaraz.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because when he does get fired up, when he's feeling it, he plays his best tennis, and when he's not hitting those shots, you do see his energy be a bit lower. He's looking to the box more, to Juan Carlos Ferreira, and looking for answers and solutions from him. I think we've seen that early in the tournament, and I was surprised that Alcaraz came out and played this well. Yesterday we weren't talking about this as necessarily Alcaraz's.
Was this a statement win?
I think it was. Yeah. I really do think it is. And
I mean, 8 of 27 break points on Tommy Paul's serve. It felt like he was just breaking his serve at will.
They were both broken quite a lot. For me, the serve from Alcaraz was the thing I was most impressed by. He was cracking about 130. He doesn't often go like that much higher than that, but he was serving very, very well. He almost had a whole game of aces, which is not the part of his game that you think is the strongest. So if he's able to improve one of his sort of weaker areas, I'm saying weaker with quotation marks, listeners, because nothing is weak about him, then I do think he's going to be very dangerous, because he's just getting more and more confident as the tournament progresses.
And I think what's so fascinating about that is the fact that Daniil Medvedev, when he spoke about the fact that he's going to face Carlos Alcaraz in the semi-final, he said that he needed to serve better. He almost needs to get as many free points as possible, because he knows that once he gets into those rallies, Carlos Alcaraz giving him those opportunities to weave his magic, that's not where you want to be.
It isn't. But having said that, he did get that win at the US Open that people weren't expecting, and that was over 4 sets. So maybe the key is Medvedev needs to win in 4. And if they go to a 5th, it becomes a lot harder. But ultimately, when you look at the head-to-head that they've had, they've both had wins. Obviously, more of the wins have come the way of Carlos Alcaraz, especially kind of recently. He's won the last 2 encounters that they've had. How important do you think that head-to-head will be going into this? Or is it the matches at Slams you should be looking at?
I think it's the matches at Slams, to be honest. And I think Daniil Medvedev will take great heart from his performance against Alcaraz at the US Open. He's also got a victory over him at Wimbledon. Carlos Alcaraz, oppositely, also has a victory over Medvedev at Wimbledon. But yeah, it's certainly going to be a tough ask. Chris, before we go to a quick break, I've just got to say, how sad are you about the fact that we're not going to get Sinner versus Alcaraz?
I'm a little bit sad about it.
Is the Novak Djokovic violin out?
I actually got a cello out for this.
Oh, you got a cello out?
Yeah,
okay.
I have.
All right.
It's the wrong instrument. But no, I am definitely. I think it's something that people would love to see.
Yeah.
I think especially at Wimbledon, we've talked about the iconography of that image that they put out last year, and I think that's a clash that people will look forward to in the future. I think we will see it at Wimbledon. I think the semi-finals, it was almost too good for another semi-final, 2 tournaments in a row, Slams.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break now, but do join us in the second half where we will be taking a look at the women's quarterfinals action from day 9, including Jasmine Paolini becoming the first woman from Italy to reach a Wimbledon semi-final in the Open era, plus Donna Vekic reaching her maiden Grand Slam singles semi-final. So do not go anywhere.
I retired a lot 2 years ago. It's something I don't want to retire if it's only a little bit of illness or sick or whatever. I was still in shape to play somehow. The 5th set I felt a little bit better again, and the energy level was a bit up, but today the energy level was not consistent. No, it was up and down, like this is also not easy to handle situations on the court, but it's it happened. I was never thinking about to retire this now, but it's for sure the crowd helped me a lot, trying to push me, and it's you don't want to retire in a quarterfinal of a Grand Slam.
That was Jannik Sinner talking about how if he can play, he will play. I love this, Chris. The fact that you spoke about retirements a few years ago. That was something that entered my mind. However, in 2024, in Jannik Sinner 2024, that is just a thing. That is just a conversation that doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, it's good to see that he's learnt from the earlier sort of times that, you don't know when these opportunities are going to come again, especially when it comes to the quarterfinal. If he can compete, he wants to compete. He has got time to kind of recuperate after this. But you've got to love that attitude. It feels very Roger, very Rafa in the sense of like if they can avoid retiring, they do. They will battle on.
I would just feel like the pressure I feel of like a sold out crowd in centre court, being like,
but that's why Murray didn't play singles, right?
Yeah,
because the pressure of that and letting down the crowd, I'd say. So he's not good. He's going to put on a show no matter what.
Yeah, he's going to put on a show.
Today.
He did put on a show today. Get well soon, Jannik Sinner. We hope to see you back
in Boston. I hope to see him in Boston.
Well, exactly. Let's hope for that. But let's move on to the women's action from today, and we're going to start with Jasmine Paolini versus Emma Navarro. Now, Chris, this was an absolute demolition job.
Blink and you miss it.
Blink and you miss it. Jasmine Paolini, 6-2.
Blink and I did miss it.
6-2, 6-1 over the number 19 seed Emma Navarro. Now, what's quite interesting about this result is the fact that going into this match, Navarro led the head-to-head 3-0. Complete reversal today. What was it about today's matchup that obviously just did not go well for Emma Navarro?
It's very surprising that it was as one-sided as the scoreline suggests, because, I mean, Navarro's had a pretty good...
I mean, that win against Goff.
That was very convincing. Osaka, a big hitter. That should be the perfect preparation for this sort of match. But if you look at the nature of the game, Paolini just took it to her. She was attacking. Almost 30% of the shots she hit were attacking shots. In addition to that, her winners were just off the scale. 19 winners, 12 unforced errors. Everything was working. She took 5 of 6 break points, and Emma Navarro only took 1 of 4. And I think quite often we've talked about this, especially with the Holger Rune match yesterday.
Yeah.
If you don't get one of those early breaks, if you don't get settled, things can just run away with you. And on centre court today, it was a very different match to the Osaka match. It did run away from her, and potentially that's because with the head-to-head in her favour and this being such a big opportunity, I think it might have could have got to her a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, she went from an early break down 2-1 to basically winning 11 of the next 12 games, 19 winners, which was triple Navarro, who only hit 6. So, yeah, it just sort of went away from her. And you know, Paolini is one of those players that, again, similar to Alcaraz, just gets on a roll, very, very hard to stop. I mean, just looking at her season, Chris, she's been going from strength to strength. You know, semi-final here, finalist at Roland Garros. She won the WTA 1000 singles title in Dubai and also the doubles in Rome. What a season.
What a season.
How good of a season has this been from Jasmine Paolini? She's going to be top 5.
Top 5, and I believe kind of if she wins the title, she'll be top 4, depends on some of the Raducanu results. But it's a fantastic season. It's so impressive, and I think the thing that I'm most impressed by is how she stepped it up from being a player around 30 in the rankings, 30 to 40, and she's almost done kind of what, as I've talked about this before, what Johanna Konta did, where she just stepped it up to the point where she became a fixture in the top 10. And it feels like with the game that she's got and the way that she's able to unlock it, she probably always had this level of game. She just didn't have the mentality or the belief that she could do it. And now she really does believe. And that French Open win, I mean, she never won a match. So we keep talking about it.
Her confidence is sky
high.
It's also infectious as well. You know, the way she adheres herself to the crowds wherever she plays.
She's a vibe.
You can't help not just to kind of root for her, even if you're not Italian.
I mean, everyone loves her. You see her, you smile. She's smiling. And I mean, why wouldn't she be smiling right now, Joel?
I know. She's, she could be, if she does make it to the Wimbledon final, she will be the last player to do that, to reach the Wimbledon final and the French Open final, was Serena Williams.
Be Serena, yeah.
I believe it was in 2016. So something that does not happen that often. And again, it's just testament to how well Paolini is playing and how well she is adapting between clay and grass.
And if she did do that, it would be the other way round. If she were to win, for example, Wimbledon, because Serena won the French that year and then lost in the final of Wimbledon, I believe. Was that to Kerber potentially in that one? Or I want to say Kerber. I'm not sure.
Yeah, possibly. I'll take your word, Chris. I feel like you're always correct on the stats.
I'm trying on this one, but no, very, very impressive. And I think that now when you're looking at Paolini's sort of result here, we talked about statement wins. You know, for Alcaraz, this was a statement when dismantling a form player right now.
And I think also, just before we move on to Vekic and Sun, the fact that she's able to back up the French Open, there's none of that talk of, oh, well, she got to the French Open final, that's just a flash in the pan, we're never going to see that happen again. It's really great to see that she's just kind of continuing on, and it isn't
doesn't
just
happen often, does it? Normally it's but maybe it's because she didn't win it that it's less of a flash in the pan potentially.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, moving on, the other quarterfinal we had today was Donna Vekic versus Lulu Sun. Chris, you were at this match. Donna Vekic won 5-7, 6-4, 6-1. I mean, Lulu Sun, I feel like she just ran out of energy a little bit towards the end in that third set. But where for you was this match won and lost?
I mean, what I thought was so impressive about this match is that Donna Vekic is a player who she can blow a bit hot and cold at times, and she really had the bit between her teeth for this. I was so impressed with the way that she was able to stick with it. I think she knew that, Lulu Sun could come out there and hit some fantastic winners. There'll be shots she won't get to. There'll be amazing shots moving forward. But the main aim she had was to keep her back, to really hit a deep ball. She kept great depth. And even though she lost that first set, she kept it so competitive. And I think ultimately she said, do it for 2 sets. And then she said, do it for 3.
Were you nervous when she hit 5 double faults to be broken in that second set?
I would say a little
on the scale, yeah.
A little bit, obviously. And then I've got to admit this, listeners, I did pop out to get a coffee and my phone charger. And Blink and you missed, again, we talked about it. That was almost as quick as the Paolini first set in that match. So, but for Vekic, as a grass court player with so much experience at this level, it's just so great to see the results come for her, because easily it could be a quarterfinal and the opportunity
Well, this moment was so big for both of them, given
was.
the journeys that they've
But
been
the age
on.
that Vekic is at and the career that she's had, she was such a young talent on the tour that came up so early on. And for her now to make it at this stage of her career, after all the injuries that she's had, she's now back to number 20 in the live rankings. Her career high is 19, and if she does win, she will become world number 16. So there's everything on the line, but it doesn't matter about the ranking. It's all about still being in the tournament at this stage.
Yeah, it's very, very promising. Looking up for Donna Vekic, and as you said, her career has been one of, as I say, like injuries, stop and start. And we're actually going to hear from her now in terms of how she has looked back on her career.
You know, there was a couple of times in my career that I didn't want to play tennis anymore, and most of you know that it was after my surgeries, but actually there was one recent one. It was actually the Thursday before Roland Garros this year that we had scheduled practice, and I arrived to the club, and I told Nick, listen, I want to pull out of French Open. I want to go home. I want to take a longer break because I didn't have any energy, any motivation to keep practicing, keep pushing, because I felt like the last couple of months I've given everything for tennis, and I wasn't getting the results that I kind of expected. So it was a very, very tough moment, but they were all there for me. And like I said, that loss in Paris was so painful, but it motivated me again to keep working, to keep pushing. And it's crazy how in tennis things can turn so fast. I was one of my best friends who was with me in Rome. I was talking to her before the match, and I was like, do you remember Rome after the match? And she was like, yeah, and now you're in the quarterfinals, and now I'm in the semifinals. So I think not just in tennis, in life, things can turn pretty fast.
Yeah, she is one of those players where it feels like injuries have just got in the way of fulfilling her talent, because when she has played to her potential, it's been really thrilling.
It is. I mean, she's such a great ball striker, and you think about, you know, the things that she's been through, and then when you come back and you have those tight matches after you've just come back into form and you don't get them, I can see exactly what she's talking about in terms of, like, not necessarily losing the passion, but it's a lot to take. I mean, these players are losing every week, and sometimes they're losing off the court as well.
She wanted to pull out the French Open, earlier this year. I mean, I think I looked at her results. I think she got to the third round, so I'm sort of glad she didn't. But it just shows that sort of motivation and energy, it doesn't just naturally
You're not always high.
No,
there are lots of lows to it, and
you sometimes have to G yourself back up, don't you?
You really do. It's a bit like us, Joel. After many podcasts, we have to G ourselves up.
That's what we talk about, like when we're editing. In the
early hours of the morning. But no, very, very impressive. And I do have to say one thing. I don't want to get this wrong. It was actually Muguruza Serena at the French Open, and then at Wimbledon it was Kerber, and she won that. So
we've got to the bottom of it, listeners.
Please ignore that. But either way. For Lulu Sun in this match, a quick kind of word on her. I think it was a phenomenal tournament. I do think she could have won it in 2 today. That's the only thing I think might have been kind of on her mind after that.
Do you feel like she needed to win it in 2?
I didn't think she needed to.
Given how that third set
Given
went.
the fact that she did kind of take on the whole crowd at Emma Raducanu's match. Yeah. And then the crowd were actually with her on this. They almost adopted her, having been the conqueror of a Brit in the nature of Raducanu.
That's how it works.
It is how it works. We then take you on. We've all watched you. We've all heard of you. And unfortunately, as we said, the sun set on her time here. But I mean, what's next for her? What are you hoping for Lulu Sun? And there are so many positives.
There are.
The prize money is one for sure.
Exactly. And hopefully it's not going back to ITF level tournaments. I hope she can now kick on and be a mainstay on the WTA tour, because she's shown her abilities. She's shown that she can handle the big occasion.
Top 25 power she's got.
She can handle the big occasion. And I think at the moment she's now in this position where she's going to be a player that you do not want to face as a seeded player in round, in round
Dangerous.
one, early doors of a competition. Yeah,
Very dangerous.
So we'll have to see how she gets on. It was quite interesting actually. I was reading about the New Zealand and the fact that they didn't even have rights or TV rights for the matches that she was on the outside courts. So once she got onto the show courts, it's opened up a huge audience reach.
I actually overheard a conversation where someone said they only got their accreditation the other day for the raducanu match because they literally came for that to cover it. So
wow,
it is funny how these things work out, and then that's why there's been so much of a Kiwi presence in her box, because everyone they got themselves here. I mean, it's quite a long flight, so they've done well to come here. It's a shame they've done a longer trip.
Yeah, they've done extremely well. I mean, very quickly, Chris, the semi-final, Paolini versus Donna Vekic. Paolini actually leads the head-to-head 2-1, but they've never played on grass, all on hard courts.
Yeah.
Who are you favouring in that?
I think you have to scratch the head-to-head completely. I think it's very even. If anything, I'd say that the confidence of Paolini might be the thing that gets her through that, but I didn't think that Vekic would come through in the way that she did in that third set. I thought maybe she wouldn't be able to handle the pace, but she did. It's a very similar sort of ball strike that Paolini's giving you, but I think the confidence of Paolini would probably give her the edge at this stage.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, given the sort of the just the last couple of months that Paolini has had. I just feel like she might carry it on. Looking forward to the order of play for day 10. Our other quarterfinals are coming up: Rybakina versus Svitolina and Dominor Djokovic on centre court. Ostapenko, Krejcikova, Musetti, Fritz on number 1 court. Chris, you asked me yesterday which court I would rather be on.
It's always centre court.
I was going to say
Chatrier.
it's always centre court. I didn't even need to look at the schedule. It's always centre court for me.
Okay, what if it was, and I'll be like, a round 1 match between... No, of course I wouldn't.
Right, order of play day 10. Which court would you prefer to be on?
I probably... I mean, I'd love to see the Rybakina Svitolina match, but then I probably would have dipped myself in for a Musetti Fritz, potentially.
Yeah, okay. A bit more, mainly for the Fritz handshake?
Yep, I think Fritz is definitely giving in all areas this tournament, especially his team, his camp,
and
his
all
box.
eyes on Morgan Riddle as well,
Exactly.
maybe,
I think
perhaps?
we won't be seeing an update to the Instagram stories.
No.
I think the girlies will be cheering for everyone in that match.
Yes.
I also am fascinated, though, by the Krejcikova-Ostapenko match, because we've not...
Will Little Wayne be in Ostapenko's pair box?
I'm unsure if he can travel to the UK, potentially. I'm not sure about that.
That's a bizarre link-up.
It is. I do love it, though.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the link-up that...
Listeners, if you have no idea what we're on about, just search Little Wayne, Jelena Ostapenko.
They're firm
Little
friends.
Wayne is a rapper from the United States and, a fan...
Rap royalty.
A fan of Jelena Ostapenko. Think Ben Stiller, Rafael Nadal, Jelena Ostapenko, Little Wayne.
I like it because I feel like she's got rapper energy, doesn't she, Ostapenko? But yeah, it'd be fascinating to see how she gets on against Krejcikova, who played very well against Collins, and it's just no one talking about it.
No one's talking about it. I mean, she's just been on late on number 1 court.
She was on centre.
On centre, sorry. Yeah,
with Siegmund.
Getting confused. All the doubles being put on. So yeah, she's got that out of the way. Very good. Yeah,
Are we doing predictions though, Joel?
Yeah, predictions. Let's end on predictions.
Get it out of the way, shall we?
Yeah. Rybakina, Svitolina.
I think 3 sets, and it's very hard to call 3 sets Svitolina.
Oh, no. 3 sets Rybakina. Dominor Djokovic.
I'm really not sure about Dominor and his injury levels. I mean, it's crazy to say that.
Are we going to see another knee
match.
sleeve? Maybe not. Ankle sleeve.
Maybe,
I think it was his ankle.
Maybe Zverev can give his back now he's out the competition and then he can lend it to Dominor. But I think Djokovic will come through that comfortably.
Yeah. Ostapenko, Krejcikova?
This is, I mean, flip a coin. If I had to say right now, I'd say Ostapenko in 2, but it could also be Krejcikova in 2.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to 3.
I'm getting Ostapenko in 3 in that. I'm thinking it'd be like a 6-1, 1-6, 6-1 crazy scoreline.
Okay, you're thinking it's going to be your favourite sort of scoreline.
Yeah. And then Musetti Fritz.
I think Fritz, the serve will get him through. I think Musetti's a fantastic returner. I don't think it will be straight sets, but I think that Taylor Fritz, as he says, it's grass is not that physical. He can serve his way through this one.
I agree with you. I'm going to go Fritz in 4. Fritz in 4 with that one. So, yes, let's see how they get on.
And how wet it will be tomorrow. Now, we can go and dry out after this, can't we, Joel?
I know, exactly. We're going to go inside and warm up, but we're going to end our latest catch-up from Wimbledon there. Listeners, I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action from week 2 from Wimbledon. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And we are posting clips on all of our social media of the news that's happening from the tournament. So do check out our social media. From the Morgan Riddles to the Ostapenkos and the Little Wayne, we are very much covering it.
Indeed.
We are. And that's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube and X. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. So do take your pick as to which channel or all of the channels to follow us on. You can purchase our merch at etsy.com/shop/tennisweeklypodcast. And as always, you can email us at tennisweeklypod@gmail.com or check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back again tomorrow from Wimbledon at Tennis Weekly HQ for our Day 10 catch-up. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.